Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm gonna introduce today my new project, which consists of JavaScript React on the front end, and Ruby on Rails from the backend side. So it's a full stack project, full stack web application about travel experience. Okay, let's first of all jump into my backend. I have here my seed file. This is how I render the data from my backend. Also, I have my tables, countries with different attributes, and cities. And we see that cities table has country ID. It means, and as we can see in our models, country has many cities and city belongs to country. Also, we have some validations for city and for country. Also, we have here our controllers for different actions. This is city controller, and before action we have set country, which returns the country associated with the city. Also, you can see all the data in country controller file. Okay. One more thing to underline on the backend, that we should specify our routes, and if we go to our roads, we see that they are nested. Cities, they are nested into countries. This is important later on when we try to fetch data from the backend and also create, delete, or do some other CRUD functionality from the front end. So this is how it looks. We have different countries with different attributes such as language, currency, area. This all coming from our seeds file. Also, let's dive a bit deeper into our front end. In front end, in the index.js file, we have important React, of course. In every React component file, we should import React. We import thunk for asynchronous requests, and from our Redux we import create store, apply middleware, and compose. Also, we import browser router as router. Also, for some style, we import bootstrap. We also use Redux developer tools, and we wrap our main app container in router and in provider, which connects to the store. And store in this case is returning this function create store that takes our arguments countries reducer from our reducer file and compose enhancer, which in this case this Redux DevTools extension compose or compose, and another argument apply middleware which takes thunk. Okay, so this is our navbar file, and it imports the countries container, country input, home container with some message. We have router, which is just a convention for browser router. We have switch, route, link, and this is how we use it. This is how we navigate through this navbar. So we have home with a welcoming message. We have countries, which I showed you before, and add city. So okay, this is what he have. So let's try to understand how this all functions. So when I go to our main container, the countries container, by declaring this method, component didMount, it renders these props fetch countries. But in this case, these props doesn't refer to any props of parent container, because as you notice, country container is the parent container. These props are coming from our Redux store. From this fetch countries, we import this fetch countries method from our actions fetch countries, when we also connect fetch countries to our countries container. Here they are. So first of all, we're exporting the function, then we use this base URL, this localhost 3000 API, and then we append these countries. We wrap it all in dispatch, which comes from Thunk. We change this response and we get these countries which represent data, and we use dispatch again, and we write type fetch countries and the payload the countries that we fetched. So after that, after fetching, after actions, we should go to our reducer, and here we see in our big switch statement, we see the action type. In our case, it's the fetch countries, which comes from our actions, and in our state, we copy the state countries array and populate this array with our action payload. And I want to remind you that this action payload is the same as the value of this payload. Countries, which represent all the data for the countries coming from the backend. So we're fetching the data and populate it via reducer. Also, let's take a look at create country. Here is the form, which also imports this connect from Redux, React Redux. And the great thing about this Redux that any component can connect to the store directly, not through its parent component, but directly from where it belongs. And we also import this add countries. So take a look. Let's take a look at our form. And on submit, we run this handle submit, which invokes this add country function, and we should invoke it by typing this props add country, and we're taking this state as an argument. In this case, the state represents everything that we typed into our form. The most important part here is that we take this state, and let's take a look what happens to the state when we take it as an argument to our add country, which comes from actions add country. So here, this country represents this state from our input, and we're fetching localhost 3000 /API /v1/countries, and as long as it's post request, we should specify it, that by default the request is get, so we shouldn't specify the get request, but any other request we should mention, whether it's put, patch, post, or delete. So, and we return this country, then we chain through this promise, through this response, and in our dispatch we also in our action specify the type and payload. So let's take a look at our reducer with type add country. So in case of add country, we return the state countries, and in the state countries we populate it with action payload. Like we add this action payload. Let's take a look at an action, what happens here. So if I click on this add country, it renders a form, and if I type like England, capital of London, currency pound sterling, language I believe it's English if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not sure about area, but wherever. And when I click submit button, okay, and when I go back to my countries, we can see now that we have this England with language, currency, area, and it's in line with all the countries that we have. Of course, and we can also delete England, and let's take a look at our delete country. It should take the country by its ID. So in this case, in country show, sorry, it should be country show. In country show, and we get the props from parent component. I believe it's countries container, and with the structure by writing this country and handle delete props in object. So this is the structuring, and it also helps us remember what type of props do we have. And in this case we have country and handle delete. And this is important because when we click on button, this delete by country name, we invoke this arrow function handle delete, which takes country prop as an argument. We shouldn't write this props country or this props country, because with the structured here by just writing country. Okay, so what happens, what will happen if we click on this delete button? Okay, it goes here to our countries component, which has this method delete country, and this method is connected to our action and the function delete country. So we take as an argument the country by its ID, and here we go. We take an argument with it by its ID, and we see that we don't need then response chain to response JSON, because we're not getting any data. We just delete the country that we have. So let's take a look. We just created this England country, and when I click delete, it should go away. Let me refresh. You see, it disappeared. That's right. So, and okay, when I click on explore cities, we see that every component has its unique cities, and they come from our Rails, so from our seeds file. And when I try to edit a city, let's for instance edit Sacramento, we should type a name, let it be Los Angeles, And the population, I don't know, population, let it be 10 millions. And description, maybe city in California, popular tourist destination. Okay, and when I submit, and let me refresh, now we see that Sacramento changed to Los Angeles, and all our data updated. Okay, let's take a look at the code, what happened there. So yeah, when I click edit city, it takes a route, and in our route we render this router props, and in city edit we spread this router props, and we also pass props city as city. Also here we can see that our city is destructured, so actually it's props city, and this one is props and deleting, this one is props country, but as we destructure it here, we just type the name. The other case would be just passing here the props and then writing props in all other props names. So, but we'll stick to this convention. I believe it's nicer. So what happens when we click here? We go to our city edit. This is our edit form, and on submit we invoke this handle edit, and it takes not only what we typed in, this state, it takes city by its ID. This is very important because we're editing an existing city, so we should specify both its ID and its parent ID. So when we create, we shouldn't specify any ID, because we don't know the ID. We just create, and the ID is created as a result. But here, when we edit an existing city, we should specify not only its ID, but also the ID of its parent. Here we are. See, we take 3 arguments: city, city ID, and country ID. You remember that city represent this state, city ID represent this props city ID, and country ID represent this props city dot country underscore ID. And we also specify the route. We in our route would take country ID and then slash and then city ID that we passed in as an argument in our edit city function. Also we specified the method patch, and after that we will go to our reducer, and type of our action should be edit city, and the payload is the city. Payload is what we typed in our form as a state. So city is the same as state from our edit form. Let's take a look at reducer. Okay, edit city, and here we create a variable, and we map through all the cities that we have, and we only want to return and that city which ID is the same as the ID of the action payload. If not, we just return the city, and we return the state, and in our cities array we just substitute the existing city with its edited version. Alright, this is pretty much that I wanted to show you. I believe I'll add some more functionality later on, maybe some more styling and some more actions, maybe click on a like button or add a comment or review. But this is what I wanted to share with you guys. This is the first time that I ever used React and Redux in a front end. So I hope that you enjoyed it and learned maybe something new. Okay, thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.